Prime Minister Netanyahu continues his push to woo Arab voters ahead of Israel's fourth election in March. His public campaign to win over Israeli Arab votes is one of the surprises of the election season so far. Netanyahu says that the Arab political parties have repeatedly failed to deliver on day-to-day issues important to families. During a speech yesterday in Nazareth, Netanyahu vowed a better future and greater integration for Arabs into society. The visit to Nazareth didn't exactly go smoothly. While he was making his plea, dozens of Arab residents protested. Clashes with police turned violent. Multiple Arab Knesset lawmakers were detained by police, dragged away from the protest in an apparent violation of their parliamentary immunity. 10 people at least in total arrested. Here's the Prime Minister speaking in Nazareth.
This is an opportunity to start a new era for all of us. This is an opportunity to begin a new era in relations between Jews and Arabs and the Arab citizens of the State of Israel.
With us now is Yosef Haddad, a social activist and the CEO of Together, Vouch for Each Other. You were there in Nazareth. It got pretty crazy, got pretty heated.
Well, first of all, we must say, and I must say, I condemn those extreme protests that showed violence. We have to understand that those protests are a minority in a minority, an extreme minority, that went to violence like this. And I'm very satisfied that the police took care of them.
But some of them were lawmakers. They were joint list MKs. They have a right to be there.
You understand what is the problem? That those MKs, they are the one that made all this more violent and more extreme. They called for this. I mean, this is outrageous. They talking about the violence in our society and they act like this. This is not the way that you set an example. That's first of all. Second, we were talking about 2 million Israeli Arabs live here in Israel. How many of them we saw? Dozens, right? Dozens from 2 million. That shows exactly what it is. And to add, my mayor, Ali Salam, he said, if I wanted to make a protest, I would be thousands. It means that they are failing. They are failing even to bring a protest against Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, who up until 2 years ago was doing incitement against our society.
So many Arab Israelis say we are willing to engage, we want to engage more with Israeli society, but Netanyahu said, come vote, Likud voters. We need you because the Arabs are voting in droves. He tried to put cameras in polling places, to secret cameras in Arab towns. They feel that Likud, that Netanyahu, this is just an empty election gesture. He doesn't care about them.
Okay. Let me tell you a secret. First of all, about the cameras, okay? In some polls in our cities and villages, there is fraud. For sure. I know that. I know that. I know people who were witness to that. But this is not the example that I want to take. I'm actually agreeing with Netanyahu on one thing, that the joint list and the Arab leaders, the political Arab leaders in Israel, they failed. They failed big time. I'll give you, for instance, an example. When they vote against building a police station, they say, oh, look at that. Look at that. When we build police stations, the crime doesn't decrease, only increasing. But I'm saying, what kind of a message you're setting by not doing something like this, by opposing to build police stations? You're actually giving all of our society to think, oh, you know what? We don't have to respect the police. So this is the things that Netanyahu is talking about, and I'm agreeing. Again, I'm not a supporter of Benjamin Netanyahu or Likud. I'm just saying on that matter, he is right.
Every time I ask you a question, you always give a direct answer. I want to ask your political future, perhaps. Has anyone from Likud reached out to you? They want a passionate Arab Israeli on their list. Has anyone reached out to you, perhaps, about being on the list?
Jeff, I am a social activist. I'm the CEO of Together, Vouch for Each Other. We did such an amazing things. If there is any future in politics, I'll update.
Well, that's not a direct answer. I know you're being careful with your words. I'm asking if anyone's reached out to you already ahead of the March election to run on the list.
As I said, I'm focusing on my activism in the Arab society, and in a way, if there is something that might come or not, I will consider that only if it will be better for our agenda and our work in our society.
We're almost out of time. I want to ask, how many seats perhaps do you think could sway with the Arab-Israeli vote here?
If you do the right campaign, if you put an Arab representative in a respectable place in your political party, not just Likud, I'm talking about Saar and Bennett and everyone else, yes?
Yeah.
And if you actually...
Even the right-wing parties.
Even the right-wing parties, if they do so, and they manage to convince the those Arabs that didn't vote, that doesn't want to vote for the joint list, they can have those votes.